Hi everyone, my name is Boris, and I'm developer advocate in footprint analytics. And today's community session is called SQL queries in footprint for beginners with no coding background. It's rather a long name, but yeah, it reflects like the contents of today's community session. So yeah, we decided not to shorten it. Well, I don't want to repeat my colleagues. There's been already a lot of presentations and demos of our product. So I'm not going to repeat the introduction of product. You probably are familiar with it a lot. So yeah, I just did a small highlight for the word anyone in the sentence that we want our tools to be both powerful and usable by anyone, from crypto beginners to expert researchers. So we're keeping this philosophy in mind when we were developing our solution from scratch, and yeah, our essential goal is to bring eventually is to make the product as more simple to use as we can. So we're sticking to this philosophy. And yeah, you don't have to have like any coding experience or any technical background in order to execute the queries and obtain the business logic that you need for your particular project or anything else. Uh, but uh, but yeah, so you may ask myself, so why do we even have this session? Like, uh, why do we need an SQL and footprint if you're having such a philosophy and like the mindset for simplicity? So yeah, you don't actually do it unless you and there are like a couple of reasons why you may need SQL in footprint or yeah, or in your life basically. So the major reasons is that you just prefer to keep everything as code. So imagine like having more than 100 charts in your analytics list, and it's quite easy to be lost there. And even with a great like forking solution that we're giving to our users, it's still a UI component in the browser. So if you're having the developer or data analysis background, you'll probably already stick to very common technologies. SQL is probably the first language syntax that everybody's learning when they start dealing with some form of data science or data analytics or other data related activities. So yeah, you may prefer to keep everything as code. This is the first reason. The second reason is you want to create more complex queries. So this is not a topic of today's session, so I'm not going to give you the precise example of more complex topics they're going to talk about, but in further sessions we'll reflect it. But yeah, unfortunately, yet we're a little bit limited from the simple UI to query the data, and with SQL, you can significantly increase the flexibility of your query. And the third key point is that you can run the background optimizations of the query under the hood. So it's a little bit technical, and it's clear when you're becoming familiar what SQL is and you're already having some experience using it, but it makes sense. Probably there are many reasons, but they are minor, so I decided not to include them here. Well, the next slide is an overview of our solution. It's rather technical and a bit complex and scary, but yeah, in order to provide the simple interface or just a just a good performant product, the sophisticated solution or the set of solutions has to be used. So this is what we're using. And as you know, we have to store and handle and obtain and query and then visualize a vast amount of data, because well, for like blockchains that are having some low fees, the lower the fees for transaction there is, the bigger the quantity of the transaction. So the bigger the quantity, the more data then we have to store. And these are the billions of rows. Those are the terabytes, the tens of terabytes, the hundreds of terabytes that we're storing. And that's why we're having this sophisticated solution. But either way, I have highlighted the Metabase DB, the MySQL cache, on this schema, because this is the central point of data storage. So yeah, if you ever ask yourself how the data is being stored on the internet, so you're opening your favorite social network and seeing your posts or something, well, this data is initially stored somewhere in the servers. The traditional approach, yeah, so when you're starting to make a service, started to think of a product, you at some point you have to make a decision of the solution, how to store data. And there are many ways to do it. And I'm going to talk about it on the next slide. But the most traditional way is to use the relational database. So this technology has been with us, I think, more than 50 years now, and with such long-term presence, with such yeah, with such maybe interest, with such popularity, there were a lot of continuous development, of course, a lot of continuous optimizations for the performances. So when we were deciding of how exactly should we store data, we decided to choose the traditional relational database, as it's good for performance, and there are a lot of components that could be wrapped around it. Yeah, that's why we've chose relational database. The presence of relational database, to be precise, we chosen the MySQL one, and the current production database is being run on MySQL, but this is a thing for change. So we may consider changing it, but unfortunately I cannot give you the precise answer. So either way, this is just a technical thing. It's not going to reflect the user, so user not going to spot it. So either way, the presence of relational database implies the usage of SQL. SQL is a SQL programming language that could be used for many things. So for the operations for the database. So a little bit more about it on the next slides. So I promised you to show the SQL and NoSQL comparison difference. So we're here. I think I don't want to stop here for a long time. So I just want to say that we've chosen a traditional and performance solution, rather new alternatives such as like key value, white column, document, or graph. So what is SQL? SQL is a non-procedural language, so you specify what to do, not how to do it. There are many ways what you can do with SQL, and there are 4 types of statements that could be executed within SQL for the database. So it's data definition language, the query language for data manipulation, the transaction control language, the data control language. So in order to receive the data, you're using only DDL, and this is what we're using in Footprint. And actually, let me please return for the architecture here and show you that at the end, anything you do in UI, in UI, the query constructor that we're having in our product is firstly being transferred, translated, maybe probably translated to SQL, and then the raw native SQL is being executed for the database to further return the data. So everything is coming to SQL. So that's what I'm trying to say. So the UIs that we're having is just a constructor of the SQL, and that's important. I'm gonna show you further why this is an important thing, but let us stick for fundamentals again. So SQL is having the strict list of the operators, the keywords that could be used in order to execute, in order to construct the query and consequently obtain the business data that you need. And on today's session, I'm just gonna stick on the 3 words. It's from, where, and select. So the from word is defines the table. So it's you're saying I want to receive the data from this source. The where operator is a condition operator. So it defines row that satisfies a certain condition or conditions. So I can probably, I want to receive something from the particular source where one of the parameters satisfies my condition. And select is a operator that enables you to define columns to be retained. So that's just basically selection of everything that you received. And as already said, under the hood, everything is SQL in footprint. So what you're seeing now, you're probably already familiar with such UI, is just a constructor for non-technical user to be able to operate with other solution. But still everything is SQL. You may probably spot it if you click to these 3 dots on the chart construction UI, that there is a button view the SQL that is leading to the window with a scary code popping up. Well, that's SQL. So you probably already see the familiar words, the select, the from, where, that we already talked about, and there is additional one limit. Don't want to stick, don't want yet to talk about it yet. So everything is SQL in footprint. And this slides present the code that was taken from here and essentially being transferred here in constructor. So as you probably already know, you're able to convert your query from a regular UI view to SQL view. You can do it once and you can't do it vice versa. There are many reasons for that. So first of all, that probably the major and the essential one, that you could present everything in SQL that is presentable in the UI view that's currently being now, but you can do it vice versa, because SQL could be very complex. I think it's time for demo. A small demo from our side, we're just gonna stick with those 3 words for now, as this is just a beginner session. Let us do it. I wanna start with a simple chart. So you probably already spotted, if you have ever created a chart, that you got options between doing it in UI or in a native SQL. Let us start with the UI, so I can show you the steps that are already highlighted on the slides. So I think we're just gonna stick with the Ethereum transactions dataset. It's simple, and everybody knows what Ethereum transactions are. So yeah, if we're previewing this table, we're seeing the 10,000 rows that are being previewed. So of course there are much more, but still. So I'm gonna be switching to the advanced UI. So it's so everything is reflected on one page, on one UI basically. Yeah. So for instance, we want to receive the Ethereum transactions of a particular user. And let us take this case. I already prepared an address to work with. So I'm just gonna copy it from here. It's a little bit drafter I created recently. So yeah. And what basically this query is doing is getting all transactions initiated by this particular address. And if you preview, we receive the list of transactions where this from address is the same. And that's basically it. We probably don't want to have everything returned. So for instance, we just need a hash of transactions. So we can remove everything from here. Actually, it's a long list, so I'm not going to remove everything. So I'm just going to leave hash for now. It's no problem. So yeah, a lot of additional info still here, but hash is here. So we were selecting a specific columns that we want to be returned. So that's what we did by selection. And as you can see, it's very simple query, and it could be described in 3 words that I already reflected earlier. Select from where. So we're selecting all these columns. We're gonna delete them because we don't actually need them, from the Ethereum transactions table, where the from address is this. So it's simple as that. And that's what SQL is about. That's what our UI is about. So every UI business logic could be transferred to SQL. And we can actually do it now, straight away. I'm just going to remove this word for some time. As you can see, yeah, here this transaction, here this query is, and it's not really handy to use it. I would say it's not formatted at all. It's not really, yeah, for me as a analyst to work with. So what I'm regularly doing and recommend you doing is to format this query. So we haven't yet implemented the auto formatting here in the Footprint product. What I personally regularly do is just go to the Visual Studio Code, and with a formatter installed, is just being automatically formatted for me, and it's significantly easier to work with now. And we can easily delete the rows that we don't want to use and reflect consequently. So I leave everything apart from hash, then I just copy it, paste it to the query, to the input field here. And if I run this query, I will receive only the hashes of transactions executed by this particular user. So that's basically it. So here are those 3 words, and pretty easy. Consequently, after, of course, you can make the visualizations based on the data that you queried. So, and it's also very easy. I think, yeah, I'll use the query that I prepared before the sharing session, just for just to show you how like visualizations could be done when you're developing the query in SQL. So let us format it once again. Actually, I forgot to mention that there are many ways to format your SQL query, not only here in SQL code. So VS Code, there are many SQL formatters in the internet, but yeah, if you want to keep everything locally, yeah, my personal suggestion is to use the VS Code here. So yeah, it's formatted now. Paste. And and this queries is a little bit more complex that we used to work with before, because it implies the presence of the new operator order by. The order by is just a sorting rule. So you're choosing on which particular column you want to sort your results. And in my case, I decided to sort it on the cumulative gas used. So to make the visualization that is showing how much gas is used for every distinct transaction. The desk the operator keyword means the descending. So we want to sort descending basically. And I also gonna introduce a new word, a limit. The limit is just a operator that is limiting the amount of like resulting rows for a particular number. So as you can see, there are like maybe 100, maybe thousands of rows here, but if we just limit it to 10, we're just gonna having some issues. Yeah, now it's good. We're limited to only 10 rows. So summing up what we're doing in this query, we want to receive the data from Ethereum transactions, where Ethereum transactions address is equals to this particular address. So it's initiated by this particular user. We want to order the results by cumulative gas price in the descending sort, and we want to only show the first 10 rows of the results. That's basically it. And now we're comfortable to provide some visualizations on this one. By numerical value, we choose a gas used, and by the name, we use the hash of transaction. And here we created a visualization for initially created SQL query. And as you can see from it, like the top 10 the top 10 transactions that were having the biggest fees are having a almost equal transaction fee. So yeah, that's it. I guess that's all for today's session. So SQL is not that scary and hard. It's a great analytical tool, and yeah, I wouldn't say that it gives much more flexibility for a regular user and like gives much more possibilities to obtain much more essential or fundamental knowledge for the regular analyst, but it's great, and it's giving you a lot of opportunities and probably possibilities to have the unique insights about your product or like any entity that's out there in crypto world.